Hey guys, welcome back to my main channel. So today's video is on a topic that I really wanted to pick back up on because I've talked about it a few times throughout the years. And those of you who've been around for a minute know that it's something very important to me, very personal to me, and that is having kids, starting a family, being a parent, despite being transgender and despite, all the obstacles that being transgender and becoming a parent entails. This is kind of going to be an update video of where I am currently at with it because there are some new developments, and also updating where I've been at since 2 years ago when I made a video where I discussed temporarily going off of hormones with the intention of salvaging what DNA that I could to have my own biological child with a surrogate. So I'll talk about what happened with that. I want to set a few intentions for this video because this isn't just about trans people. I think anyone with fertility issues or anyone who wants to be a parent through any alternative methods at all could relate to. Infertility is something that is more common than people think, and there are a lot of people that go through it and has nothing to do with being trans. But also for trans people, to be sort of an informational video for trans people who are either going through this or expect they may go through this in the future, because the amount of trans influencers that talk about this is very, very scarce. I know that Gigi Gorgeous has been very great about talking about this. I think she's one of the only ones, and I was very grateful for her videos because they're one of the only ones, but hopefully I can add to that. And I'll start with saying that obviously everyone is different. Not everyone wants kids. Some people are very content with never having kids, and I respect that. But for me, I don't personally see my life having the fulfillment and value that I want it to without the picture, including having kids at some point. So there's that. So 2 years ago, when I talked about going off of hormones temporarily to have a child with a surrogate, I did, and it was awful. It was a really big deal for me to go off of hormones. Ask any trans person who has transitioned. Our hormones are very important to us. They're kind of the bread and butter of your actual transition. And I've literally had nightmares before about just forgetting to take them for one day and suddenly having like a beard and a mustache and stuff. That didn't quite happen, but there were some physical changes that were kind of traumatic for me when I went off of hormones. So I definitely had like really oily skin and hair, which is something I struggled with before I transitioned. It like went right back to that. My body hair like on my legs got thicker, and I actually had, this is the worst part, some recession on my hairline. It's kind of reversed now from going off of hormones just temporarily, which was kind of really scary. You guys know I had a surgery a couple years ago that I brought my hairline down. Well, I reversed a portion of that by going off of hormones, but it was worth it for me to have a child. Biologically, anything was worth it. But long story short, that didn't work out. I've been on hormones for so long that it didn't really matter. It just didn't work, right? Like I did not have the DNA after just so many years of going on hormones, because hormones do sterilize you when you're male to female. So to go through that and still not have any results that I wanted was super upsetting, and that's kind of why I went silent for a while on my journey towards becoming a parent. And I still get asked about it all the time. Like I feel like a quarter of my questions are, when are you having kids? What's the update on that? So at this point I was basically at the drawing board with me going off hormones not working, because initially the plan was that I had a child through a surrogate and so did Joey. So that's kind of the best we could do to have actual children with both of our DNA. Obviously we can't mesh our DNA, but if we both have one surrogate and one child, then it's as close as it can get, right? But after realizing that I could not, it was kind of hard because I, to be honest, do have this insecurity and this fear of like, okay, so if we just go forward with Joey using a surrogate, and so our children are biologically linked to him, but not me, it kind of makes me feel like the odd person out. It kind of makes me feel like, God forbid anything ever would have happened with Joey and I's relationship. This child or these children have this biological link to him, but not to me. So what exactly would be the incentive for these kids to even stay in my life? And that's super dark and it's super sad, but these are real thoughts that you think about when you're going into having kids through alternative means. Anyone who is going through that, I think you can relate. So I'm sure at this point, some people have already commented or are thinking of commenting, just adopt. Yeah, I'm aware that adoption is definitely a solid option, and it's definitely, as part of this update, looking more and more like that is the route that we are going to take. I've done a lot of research on the adoption process, and it is really difficult. And just from what I've heard from people who have adopted, the process is just a nightmare. But obviously it's worth it if you want to be a parent and can't through other methods. And again, because I'm just being super honest in this video, adoption is one of those things that in the beginning, both Joey and I said that we did not want to do. That, it was very important for us to have children with our own DNA. And that was where our headspace was, at the time and throughout earlier parts of our relationship. But the idea of adoption has really grown on me, and not just because it's sort of a last resort thing. Trust me. It's more so like, the idea of giving a safe and loving home to a child who would otherwise grow up an orphan and grow up without parents definitely makes my heart feel good. And I feel like that is something that I would like to provide to someone. But I have known a few people in my life that have grown up orphans, and they've gone through, foster care and been put in different homes over time. And I've seen the negative effects on their life, as much as they push through and work hard and are amazing people. It's hard. And so if I can take that hardship away from a child, I think that's something that I would love to do. And I have realized over time that this mindset of we'll never adopt, we only want kids of our own DNA, was wrong, because a parent is a parent. And there's something even more special about, again, giving a child a home who wouldn't have one. And I want to talk about, I know some people are going to have the reaction of, well, why didn't you save your DNA before you went on hormones for years and then sterilized yourself? Like, why wouldn't you think of that beforehand? And trust me, I wish with all my heart that I did. The fact is I didn't. And I have to say that, unfortunately, I feel like I was not properly informed when I started my transition journey by doctors who should have hopefully known that this did entail, if I did stay on hormones for years without stopping, that I was going to end up sterilizing myself. They should have known that. And if they didn't, that's bad. But it's also bad that if they did know that, they didn't really properly inform me on that. And yes, the onus is on you when you're taking any medication or undergoing any sort of medical process to understand the risks and to understand the byproducts for which you may not have predicted. But it's still, you can only do so much. Like, I was 20, right? And I was not thinking about having kids. I was not in a relationship. And I was, I always said, even growing up, I never wanted kids, right? So it just was not part of my worldview. It was not part of what I saw for my life. My only focus was transition, fix this gender dysphoria, get it over with, and focus on you. Because there is something very, I don't want to say selfish, but something very self-serving about transitioning. I mean, it has to be. It's something for you, and only you should be making the decision. It's for you. It's by nature just all about you. But what I think is so important, and what I would like to communicate to trans people who are maybe at that stage where they can save their DNA before they go forward with their transition, just be aware that even if you wholeheartedly believe that you'll never want kids and you'll never want a family, it's probably worth it to just save your DNA, to just do it, because you never know where you're going to be 5, 10, 15 years down the line. And you don't want to close off your options. Please do not assume that because we are young and super duper intent on getting this transition in, I remember how I was back then, like nothing could stop me. I wanted it now, now, now. Please don't assume that because you see that energy in us when we come in and we're young and have our life to look forward to, please don't assume that our entire lives are going to be just transition and just about me. Like, there is a life after transition. I think that's something that a lot of trans people forget about. And to anyone out there who isn't trans and dealing with fertility issues or dealing with just, problems starting a family, like, I definitely feel you. And I know that my reason is a bit different, and mine in some ways was self-inflicted, although I wouldn't say entirely self-inflicted, because again, I don't feel like I was properly educated when I started my process through doctors. But, I feel you, because it's so frustrating to have, like, I feel like I'm always seeing people who like, oops, we got pregnant. Oops, we have a kid on the way. Or, and it's beautiful and I'm very happy for them. But it also is kind of like, it just sucks. Like, damn, it's that one thing that I can't have very easily. Like, now that I'm pretty sure Joey and I are going to be working towards adoption, like, now it's other things. Like, we do meet financial requirements, thank God for it. And we do have a safe and happy home. But, the process itself is very, very rigorous. One of the other things I think about, maybe people think I'm crazy for saying this, is I am 27. So it's not like I'm 19 or 20, which is, I feel like, when all of our parents had us, So I'm thinking, okay, even if I had a child right now at this age, before they're even in preschool, I'm going to be in my 30s. And then Joey is even older than me. Joey's 33. So it's like, damn, like, I don't want to be that family with like the old parents, or like just not being around for as long as we need to be for our kids, because I think it's such a special thing to, you know, have your parents until as old as you possibly can, you know? So I'll end this with saying to endocrinologists who are hormone doctors, please talk about this more with your patients. There is an entire afterlife to being trans, and once you're over with your transition, people might want to think about that stuff, and they should have the information. And shout out to anyone who is having or has had difficulties having kids for whatever reason, maybe whether you're trans or otherwise. I feel you. We're going to get through this, and it is what it is. Continue to stay positive. I will continue to stay positive. And I guess that concludes my update on baby making, or the lack thereof, because it's looking like adoption is the way for me. Make sure you guys subscribe to this YouTube channel as well as my second channel if you're not. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram and Twitter because I post on there way more than I do on here. So you gotta keep up with those to keep up with me. And I love you guys. I will see you in the next video.